Class 8 English, Chapter 7, A Visit to Cambridge, Topic 1.
Hi children, this is Padma before you here. I welcome you all for today's session. And today's session is going to be a very excellent experience to all of us. Do you know why? Today we are going to discuss an amazing experience of a famous person whose meeting with another famous person is so special. But before going to discuss this, would like to listen from you all. Have you ever met a person whom you got excited and inspired? Great! Today, I am going to share with you a very excellent experience of a famous person, and to know all the details, who is the person and why he met the person, what could be the reason. To know all these details, we need to have a look into the text of Chapter 7, A Visit to Cambridge. Before going to discuss this, let's watch this video. Then let's see the overview of the text, that is chapter number 7, A Visit to Cambridge. We have 6 components to discuss and will be covered in 3 parts. The components are: before you read, there's introduction, working with the text, reading comprehension and vocabulary, working with the language, reading comprehension and grammar, and also speaking and writing and the poem When I Set Out for Lyonesse. Before going to start today's part, watch this video.
Kid. Just a kid living life. Thanks so much. Seriously though, this is absolutely amazing. Did anybody agree with me? Yeah, right? So awesome. And I am so honored and I'm so blessed to be part of this. Being on stage in front of all of you to receive this award. Just for being myself. And that, for me, is the epitome of inclusion. So I want to thank everyone who's a part of the National Inclusion Project, because they've been doing such a great job at making sure that every child, everywhere, every time.
The part 1 of today's session brings you reading comprehension and vocabulary, that is, working with the text. To know all the other details, we shall discuss the text. But before going to begin the lesson, we'll see the learning outcomes you are going to get by the end of this lesson. Learning outcomes. By the end of this lesson, you'll be able to identify the world-famous personalities Stephen Hawking and Firdaus Kanga. We'll be able to relate similar people who are differently abled in your vicinity. We'll be able to express the words given in the text in your own expression. We'll be able to exemplify the people who are successful despite their disabilities. And we'll be able to rewrite the sentences using various forms of the words. And also, we'll be able to describe the special traits you have learned from them. Children, let's have a view of the information given in the text before you read. Before you read, this is the story of a meeting between 2 extraordinary people, both of them disabled or differently abled, as we now say. Stephen Hawking is one of the greatest scientists of our time. He suffers from a form of paralysis that confines him to a wheelchair and allows him to speak only by punching buttons on a computer, which speaks for him in a machine-like voice. Firdaus Kanga is a writer and journalist who lives and works in Mumbai. Kanga was born with brittle bones that tended to break easily when he was a child. Like Hawking, Kanga moves around in a wheelchair. The two great men exchange thoughts on what it means to live life in a wheelchair and on how the so-called normal people react to the disabled. The present text talks about the meeting of, or rather Firdaus Kanga, who is a writer and journalist and who lives in Mumbai, and his meeting with Stephen Hawking in England. There's a common point between these two great people, that is, both are disabled and both lives are confined to wheelchairs. And they meet here and talk about how the life means living in a wheelchair and how the so-called normal people react to them, people like disabled. Now let's see about Hawking. About Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking was one of the greatest scientists and the most brilliant and completely paralyzed astrophysicist. He was the author of the book, A Brief History of Time, one of the biggest bestsellers ever. We'll see about him in detail in the text. Or rather, Firdaus Kanga is a writer and journalist, lives and works in Mumbai. He was born with brittle bones when he was a child, which tended to break easily. The common point in both these great persons is both are disabled. Children, shall we have a glance at these two great intellectuals? Who are the two great people mentioned here? Stephen Hawking and Firdaus Kanga. Well done. See the next question and try to answer. What did the two great men exchange when they met? Exchange thoughts on what it means to live life in a wheelchair and on how normal people react to the disabled. Well done. Children, we have discussed the introduction of the text and now we'll learn more about Stephen Hawking and our author Firdaus Kanga and their meeting details. Reading comprehension. Cambridge was my metaphor for England, and it was strange that when I left it had become altogether something else because I had met Stephen Hawking there. It was on a walking tour through Cambridge that the guide mentioned Stephen Hawking, poor man who is quite disabled now, though he is a worthy successor to Isaac Newton, whose share he has at the university. Children, here Kanga tells us his importance to Cambridge, but at the end of his journey, it became more precious because he had met Stephen Hawking. It was his guide who reminded him about his presence and therefore he wished to see him. Children, try to answer this. Who is the other scientist mentioned in the text? Isaac Newton. Well done. Children, let's see the meanings for the difficult words we have come across in the text. Meanings of the difficult words. Metaphor. Comparing two things that have similar features. Strange. Unusual. Guide. A person who helps in showing tourists around. Disabled. A condition that limits movements, senses, or activities. University. An educational institution which helps students get degree. Successor. The next person that takes over. Children, now we'll see the next paragraph of the text. And I started because I had quite forgotten that this most brilliant and completely paralyzed astrophysicist, the author of A Brief History of Time, one of the biggest bestsellers ever, lived here. Children, a rather feel sorry for a moment that how he could forget this most brilliant astrophysicist and the author of A Brief History of Time, which is one of the biggest bestsellers living in England. Children, answer the following question. Was the book written by Hawking? A Brief History of Time. Well done. Children, we'll see next what happened, whether other Kanga had met him or not. When the walking tour was done, I rushed to a phone booth and almost tearing the cord so it could reach me outside, phoned Stephen Hawking's house. There was his assistant on the line and I told him I had come in a wheelchair from India. Perhaps he thought I had propelled myself all the way to write about my travels in Britain. I had to see Professor Hawking. Even 10 minutes would do. Half an hour, he said, from 3:30 to 4. Kanga, after completion of his walking tour, immediately he called to Hawking and his assistant attended the call and told him that he had come in a wheelchair all the way from India, and he mentioned that he is going to write a travelogue about his travels in Britain, and he requested him to arrange a meeting with Hawking at least for a short span. The meeting was scheduled for half an hour. Children, shall we discuss certain difficult words we have come across in this text? Meanings of the difficult words. Cord. String made of twisted strands. Propelled. Push around. Example sentence for cord. I need to tie the box with a cord. Children, answer the following question. What did the author want to write? About his travels in Britain, a travelogue. Well done. Children, we'll see the conversation further. Children, we'll see the frankness of Hawking in expressing his thoughts in this conversation. I haven't been brave. I have had no choice, said his disembodied voice, machine-like voice. Kanga gets surprised to see Hawking being so brave and bold and questions him how he could be so. But Hawking reveals that he does not consider himself to be brave, except accepting the way of life. This shows his nature of taking things in reality. He speaks with the help of his speech-generating machine. However, Kanga considers Hawking to be brave owing to all his achievements. Kanga poses his next question to Hawking. He expresses that a lot of people seem to think that disabled people are chronically unhappy. I know that's not true myself. Are you often laughing inside? About 3 minutes later, he responded, I find it amusing when people patronize me. Or others specified that most of the people think about the disabled that they are often get depressed, and asked Hawking whether he feels ridiculous at that thought. He replied that he always finds funny when people show sympathy on him. In this conversation, we'll see the attitude of Hawking, which one should develop this. Children, Read the question and answer it. What reply did the professor give when our other asked him how he could be so brave? He said he had not been brave but accepted the reality of his life. Well done. Children, shall we see meanings of the difficult words which we find in the text? Now let's say those words. Chronically, continuous and recurring. Patronize, offering help only to show that one is superior. Example sentence. Hawking doesn't like people patronizing him. Children, now make a sentence on your own using the word chronically. Children, shall we observe the interview further? Kanga's next question to Hawking is, do you find it annoying when someone like me comes and disturbs you in your work? Hawking says, smilingly, yes. That implies a sarcastic reply. In a very short span, Kanga realized that it was a sarcastic reply. Children will see the next. What did most of the people think about the disabled? Chronically unhappy. Well done. Children, our author is so interested to know many things from the professor, Hawking. He continued to ask him questions. Now, let's see how the dialogues continued. The interview continued further. Kanga poses a question to Hawking. What do you think is the best thing about being disabled? Hawking replies, I don't think there is anything good being disabled. I think you don't discover how much kindness there is in the world, says Kanga. Hawking acknowledged what he had said in an enthusiastic way and replies, yes. The next question asked was, is there any advice you can give disabled people, something that might help make life better? Hawking replies, they should concentrate on what they are good at. Children, or rather asked the professor what message he could give to the disabled people that feels strength in them. The professor says they should concentrate on what they are good at or expertise at. They should not do anything beyond their capacity. In this context, he expresses his opinion on the Olympics conducted for disabled is a waste of time. Children, answer the question given below. What advice did Hawking give to the disabled? To concentrate on what they are good at, rather doing beyond their capacity. Well done. Children, now we'll see the summary of the text so far we have discussed. Summary. The present text talks about our author Kanga's meeting with one of the greatest scientists and a paralyzed astrophysicist, Stephen Hawking. Until he reached London, He felt Cambridge was very precious to him in England. But after meeting Hawking, his visit to England became something more special. When he heard about Hawking, he desired to meet him once and therefore called him and had an appointment through his assistant for half an hour. Kanga was a bit curious and excited to meet Hawking since he found a person who was leading life quite like him. The next morning, he went to his place on dot and felt surprised to see him in a wheelchair. He felt he could get courage seeing people similar like him, differently abled and confined to a wheelchair, and who achieved something big. Kanga started his conversation with him, sometimes delightful, sometimes amusing, and some other time a bit philosophical. Children, let's match the following words with its appropriate meanings. Appropriate forms of the words or derivatives or parts of speech. Each word has its own function. Its form changes according to the context, that is, varies from context to context. For example, a word at one place is noun, in another place it may act as adjective. Sometimes a single word may have 2 to 3 forms or more than that. Example, she is mentally strong. Her mental strength made her stand on her own. Strong here is adjective and strength here is noun. Let's see a few more examples of other forms of the words. Appropriate forms of the words. Parts of speech. Dimension, noun. Dimensional, adjective. Sentiment, noun. Sentimental, adjective. Brave, adjective. Bravery, noun. Anguish, noun. Anguished, verb. Happy, adjective. Happiness, noun. Children, let's do the following exercise. Fill in the blanks in the sentences below using the appropriate forms of the words given in the following box. Guide, succeed, chair, travel, pale, drawn, true. Let's see the first sentence. I met a dash from an antique clan. I met a traveler from an antique clan. Now we'll see the next one. Second one. I need special dash in mathematics. I can't count the number of times I have failed in the subject. I need special guidance in mathematics. I can't count the number of times I have failed in the subject. Third one. The guide called Stephen Hawking a worthy dash to Isaac Newton. The guide called Stephen Hawking a worthy successor to Isaac Newton. Next one. His other problems dash into insignificance beside this unforeseen mishap. His other problems paled into insignificance beside this unforeseen mishap. Children, let's discuss the comprehension check of the text we have learned so far. The first question. Guess the first question put to the scientist by the writer. The first question put to Hawking by the author was, how could you be so brave to lead the life in a wheelchair? Very good. Next, see the other one. Question number 2. Describe the personality of Hawking. He is brave, confident, and optimistic. Very good. Let's see the next question. Third question. What similarities do you find in both the persons? Both are differently abled. Very good. Next see the other one. Question 4. Why did the writer feel guilty to move on to the next questions? Answer. Seeing Hawking tired of tapping buttons on his computer, the writer was hesitant to continue. Very good. Now see the next one. Why is the meeting between these two persons so special? Answer. Both are differently abled and are intellectuals in their respective fields. Very good. Let's see the next one. Question number 6. How did Hawking give his responses? Answer. Through a speech generating machine or machine-like voice. Very good. Children, next we'll see the second topic, that is gerund phrases or noun phrases. Children, we are going to do now working with the language. That is making meaningful phrases. And in this exercise, we are particularly working with noun phrases or also called gerund phrases. Before going to learn these phrases, we need to know what's a phrase. Now we'll see what's a phrase. A phrase is a group of words which has some sense but does not convey complete meaning unless used in a given context. Example, get rid of, in spite of, etc. It doesn't include a verb. What's a noun phrase or gerund phrase? A noun phrase is simply a phrase that includes a noun. Gerund is a verbal noun. For example, a talking doll, a crying baby, etc. Children, will do the exercise in detail. Observe the following phrases. Look at the following words. Walk, stick. Can you create a meaningful phrase using both these words? Add ing to the verb and use it before the noun. Put an article a at the beginning. A walking stick. See these examples. A dancing doll. A dining table. A rocking chair. Children, now let's do the exercise. Now make meaningful phrases using the words given below. Read, session, smile, face, revolve, chair, walk, tour, dance, doll, win, chance. Children, we'll do this exercise. Let's see the answers. Read, session. A reading session. Smile, face. A smiling face. Revolve, chair. A revolving chair. Children, following the instructions given, we have done the phrases. We'll see a few more given. Walk, tour. A walking tour. Dance, doll. A dancing doll. Win, chance. A winning chance. Children, now do the following assignment given. Children, do the next assignment. Answer the following question. Write about any person who is differently abled in your knowledge and give the details of him or her and your encouragement to them. Children, I'll give you details of a scientist and you write a paragraph about him using the information given. Then do the given project work. Isaac Newton, born January 4, 1643, England, fields physics, natural philosophy, alchemy, theology, mathematics, astronomy, economics. Rollin, scientific revolution. Subjects of study: Newton's laws of motion, calculus, gravity. Died March 31st, 1727, aged 84, London, England. Children, I'm signing off for now and will meet you in the next session. Thank you. Have a good day.